This bulletin proudly brought to you in association with Alex Campbell's Menswear.
Tonight on The South Today, thousands of kilometres have been clocked up in Dunedin as an e-scooter company launches in the city. Your parents didn't know how right they were when it comes to vegetables and dietary fibre. And Dunedin's Baldwin Street could lose the world's steepest street title if a Welsh town has its way. Kia ora, good evening, I'm Holly Buchanan. Thousands of kilometres have been clocked up on Dunedin's roads, footpaths and cycle lanes on Lime scooters since they were launched on Thursday. But although they've taken Dunedin by storm, they're already generating police complaints and there's been at least one visit to the emergency department.
An increasingly familiar sight on Dunedin streets in the last few days. Lime scooters launched in Dunedin last Thursday with local riders clocking up a total of nearly 6,000 kilometres on day one alone. Since then, the city's been abuzz with smiling riders zipping around on the electric scooters as Dunedin joins Auckland, Christchurch and Hutt City as hosts of the Californian company's New Zealand fleet.
It provides a really efficient, affordable, clean alternative, something that's really fun to get around the city as well. And it really aligns well, as you've seen from the results in some of our New Zealand cities, with New Zealand cities, because we have a heavy reliance on private vehicles.
Popular routes so far include the cycle lanes along the one-way system and along Otago Harbour. A fleet of 300 e-scooters are currently operating in the city, although that number could change depending on the demand.
It's more a viability, feasibility type thing, and we'll look to scale up and down as appropriate.
The company signed a memorandum of understanding with the Dunedin City Council. They've received about 35 queries relating to Lime scooters, while Dunedin's tertiary institutions are also preparing for crowds of students and staff members using the scooters.
I think the student population's got a lot better behaved over the years. You know, back in the day when I was there, there may have been a couple of issues like that, but no, I really like to empower the students actually to behave and use the right discretion.
The Lime scooters are classified as a low-powered vehicle that doesn't require a licence and can be ridden on the footpath, road, shared pathways and some cycle lanes. In Dunedin, The South Today.
A man has been charged after an alleged paintball gun drive-by shooting spree in Dunedin in which he shot at two 14-year-old boys. The 19-year-old was arrested on Friday night after shooting the weapon out of a car window on John Wilson Ocean Drive. They say it's lucky they were able to distinguish the weapons were paintball guns and not firearms, otherwise it would have been an AOS call-out. Police are working to connect the incident with another that day in which 3 Ritchie's tour buses were struck by paintball guns in Ravensbourne. Your parents didn't know how right they were. It turns out vegetables are even better for you than was previously believed. University of Otago researchers have found a high fibre diet is healthier than originally thought, and increases in intake could have significant benefits in reducing the risk of heart disease, stroke, diabetes and cancer.
The humble fruit and vegetable stall at Dunedin Hospital. Ironically, researchers say it could be the key to keeping people out of hospital. New research from the Otago University, published in British medical journal The Lancet, reveals a diet high in fibre is healthier than originally thought.
What we found is that fibre and eating high fibre diets was by far the most predictive in reducing risk of things like coronary heart disease, of stroke, of type 2 diabetes and colorectal cancer.
The study found for every 8-gram increase in dietary fibre eaten per day, total deaths and incidences of coronary heart disease, type 2 diabetes and colorectal cancer decreased by between 5 and 27%.
People with high fibre diets also had a lower risk of total mortality and all cancer mortality, which was really interesting.
He says they've calculated people should be consuming between 24 and 29 grams of fibre per day to enjoy a raft of health benefits.
From trials, what we found is that people who increased fibre intake tended to lose weight as well as have lower total cholesterol. Even if they weren't advised to reduce weight or to eat less at the same time, it was the high fibre diets that tended to reduce weight.
The researchers will outline their findings at the Focus on Fibre and Food Symposium at the university next month. In Dunedin, for the South Today.
Police are appealing for information about a man who stole valuable coins from an elderly collector in Mosgiel. Southern District Police say a man calling himself George visited Otago Coin International to sell coins and purchase a gold sovereign in August last year. The collector and George spent about an hour discussing coins. When the collector's attention was shifted, the man grabbed the coin collection and ran out the door. The elderly collector was unable to chase after him. Police believe the man lives in Dunedin or Mosgiel and may have shown someone the collection in the last few months. A survey of the winding Welsh Street challenging Dunedin's Baldwin Street for the title of the world's steepest is complete, but the methods used may be less than ideal. Dunedin's claim to be the home of the world's steepest street has been officially challenged by residents of the Welsh town of Harlech, who believe their street is steeper.
It's officially known as the world's steepest street and a popular attraction for tourists. But Dunedin's Baldwin Street is being challenged by residents of the Welsh town of Harlech, who believe their street, Ford Penlec, is steeper. And at least one local resident isn't thrilled with the idea of being knocked off top spot.
I've been really disappointed. It just adds a really fun element to living here. And it's really positive, and like I said, most people are in really good spirits, and it's just cool.
At its steepest, Baldwin Street's world record gradient stands at 35%, but the Harlech residents claim their street has a gradient of 36%. The Welsh Street has already been surveyed, the information set to be given to a mathematician who'll collate the data before giving it to Guinness World Records. But tourists say whatever the result, Baldwin Street is still a challenge to climb.
It was really crazy. It's the deepest street in the world, and it's heavy to go up there.
And while the Welsh Challenge is providing some welcome international media coverage, living on Baldwin Street has its share of ups and downs.
There's just, I think, sometimes just, again, they struggle with people lying in the road or climbing into their property to take photos and stuff. But generally, most of the tourists are really, really kind and sweet.
It'll take at least 3 months for Guinness World Records to consider the Welsh Challenge. Until then, Baldwin Street will remain the world's steepest. In Dunedin, the South Today.
Still to come on the South Today, a Wanaka woodworker with Pacific influence captures the attention of Cromwell's Hullabaloo art space. And a capacity crowd turns out in Christchurch to see American rock band Toto perform. Welcome back. Wild weather in the south last year has resulted in dozens of claims flooding into the Earthquake Commission. New figures released by the Commission revealed Dunedin dominated the 129 EQC claims in Otago and Southland last year. Over 90 claims for landslip, storm or flood damage were lodged in Otago and Southland, most of which were from Dunedin. 18 claims were received for the wild weather of November the 20th. And moving on to clearer skies, it was a case of sun, smiles and sizzling sausages for visitors to the annual Kaka Point Beach Market Day over the weekend. Organisers say several hundred visitors browsed the more than 60 stalls during the course of the traditional 5-hour fair. They say stall holders were delighted with the large number of shoppers, an increase being put down to the perfect summer weather. Typically, the market day raises about $1,500 for local beautification projects. Proceeds from this year's event are set to go towards new information panels for the town's historic Molyneux Bay. A Wanaka woodworker has joined Cromwell's Hullabaloo Art Collective with plans for a solo exhibition later in the year. Simon King's wooden artworks include kitchen utensils and food bowls, which draw on a Pacific Island influence.
With a background in education and a love of history, artist Simon King crafts pieces that combine traditional techniques with thoughtful experimentation.
One of the areas that I'd like to explore is the Pacific Island traditions of joinery, where there's no such thing as glue and nails, and so everything's lashed together.
Time spent living and working in the Cook Islands has been a particular influence on his work.
And I lived in the Cook Islands for 2 years, teaching over there, and spent a lot of time drawing and painting canoes and buildings and the kinds of traditional joinery techniques there. I'm interested in the form of pottery from different parts of the world and how that sort of influences what people's expectations of a vessel are. And I'm interested in wood as a material, in sort of exploring colour and texture and putting different woods together through inlay work and so on.
Some of his works feature unusual elements for people to discover.
Inside the lids, when you open them, is something of a surprise in the form of inlay work. And often I use silver and black pearl shell and other materials like that. So this box is an homage to Gretchen Albrecht. So this is based on her abstract works, and I'm a huge fan of some of New Zealand's abstract painters, and so their ideas find their way into my work.
An exhibition of his work will take place later this year at Hullabaloo Art Space in the Cromwell Heritage Precinct. Simon Henderson for the South Today.
A capacity crowd has turned out at North Hagley Park in Christchurch to see American rock band Toto perform as part of the A Summer's Day live concert tour. The crowd rose as one to its feet when the headline act came on stage. The band performed all their classic tunes, including Africa and their 1982 hit Rosanna. Dunedin musician Anne-Marie Nelson was among the enthralled fans and says she's waited 35 years to see Toto live. Kiwi Aussie rockers Dragon and US band Jefferson Starship kicked off the afternoon concert and were also well received. It was the fourth and final show in the series, with gigs also held in Mount Maunganui, Napier and New Plymouth. After the break on the South Today, young athletes flocked to Dunedin for the South Island Colgate Games at the Caledonian Ground over the weekend, and US Navy officers drop in for a workout in Alexandra. Welcome back. A man has been taken to Dunedin Hospital with moderate injuries after reportedly falling while performing some sort of planking move. St John's say they were called to the Esplanade just after 11 this morning to an incident involving a man in his 30s. He was taken by ambulance to Dunedin Hospital in a moderate condition. Police say they were also called to the incident after reports the man fell off a metal railing after performing a planking manoeuvre. To some slightly more coordinated athletic endeavours now, young athletes have turned out in their droves for the South Island Colgate Games held at the Caledonian Ground over the weekend. Nearly 900 competitors aged from 7 to 14 from around the country attended the annual Children's Athletics meeting. The event is run by Athletics New Zealand and is in its 41st year. Over 60 clubs were represented at the meet, with each competitor taking part in an average of at least 4 events. Organisers say athletes are increasingly trying out some of the traditionally less popular sports like race walking. Medals were on offer in each event, with 4 scholarships also awarded for the outstanding performers. The event has been known as the Colgate Games since 1978. Several Alexandra gym goers have been put through their paces during a military-style workout session observed by 2 United States Navy officers. The pair have touched down in central Otago for an adventure run which begins on Friday.
Hold yourself a bit of space. Once everybody's there, we'll get into the next exercise.
Chad Wright and Sean Webber have both served their country as members of the United States Navy SEALs and US Navy respectively. The pair are in central Otago for the Revenant Adventure Run later this week, but took time out over the weekend to test members of Alexandra's PT Central Gym with a military-style workout.
The most important thing about today's session, like we talked about earlier, was just the relationships that you build through adversity.
Wright recently retired from the US Navy SEALs after 12 years of active service.
I feel like my experience in the SEAL teams has really prepared me for the event here in New Zealand, the Revenant. A lot of the skills that we practiced in the SEAL teams will come in handy out here on the race course.
The Ultra Adventure Race takes individual competitors or two-person teams through the Welcome Rock trails near Queenstown. They'll cover nearly 200 kilometres and climb around 16,000 metres over 3 gruelling days.
Basically, we've been training for this our whole life. We didn't know it was for this race, but everything we've done to this point is, an advantage.
Webber says the US team should be formidable opponents.
But it's just continuous movement and never quitting. There's no way Chad and I are going to quit on each other, and there's no way we'll quit the race.
The Revenant Adventure Run begins on Friday. In Alexandra, the South Today.
And now recapping tonight's top stories on the South Today. Thousands of kilometres have been clocked up on Lime scooters since their launch in Dunedin on Thursday. New research shows vegetables are even better for us than we thought, especially for their dietary fibre content. And a survey of the Welsh Street challenging Baldwin Street for the title of world's steepest is complete, but the methods used may be less than ideal. And now a look at what's happening in tomorrow's ODT. Welcome, Philip.
Yes, hi, Holly. Here's welcome to the new year.
Yes.
A lovely picture of an 8-year-old girl. She's going to be playing the violin at the Chinese Garden.
Wow.
For Vivaldi's Four Seasons. She's picked Summer, apparently because she's a friend at George Street Normal whose name's Summer. But they're looking for a viola and another violin and a cello so they can get all 4 seasons covered.
Very impressive, isn't it, for 8 years old?
Yes, yes. Important story too with developments at Telford, with the being taken over by Lincoln and Teratahi and going into liquidation. The meetings today, SIT are moving, and a story about that in the plan, so that's promising. Let's hope that comes to fruition. Up at Lawrence, we had a reporter up there today, next stage for archaeological digs for the Chinese community up there and reports on what happened in the first stage. So I look forward to reading that in the paper tomorrow.
Yeah, that sounds interesting.
Should mention perhaps the opinion page. We haven't done that for a while, obviously. Jim Sullivan from Patearoa is on tomorrow with his satirical slice on life, so look for that. There's a big article on interesting analysis saying in these changing times, even a great power like China and even a company like Apple, who knows, they could be vulnerable too.
Right.
And a big feature from on Wilding Pines.
Okay.
Yeah. Editorial tomorrow discusses the issue of drug roadside testing.
Right.
Some parts of the world they use saliva, but it has severe limitations, and there's some tricky technological and legal issues still to be sorted through. The petition was launched a week or two ago just to try to get the process hurried up. Both Labor and National have looked at it, but both in favour in principle, but getting it so that it's done fairly and justly and effectively is still a few things in the way.
Yes, no doubt.
Yeah, so there's a small sample.
Well, thanks for all of that, Philip. And time now for a look at tomorrow's weather.
Tonight's weather proudly brought to you by MoleMap.
Tonight's southern view is of the New Zealand flag fluttering in front of Dunedin's courthouse. Looking at the situation, an anticyclone will sit in the Tasman Sea for a few days, bringing mostly fine weather to the South Island with plenty of sunshine and pleasant temperatures. Starting off at the northwest of the South Island, Greymouth and Westport can expect a few clouds with highs of 24 degrees. Across to the northeast, Nelson can expect a warm but cloudy day with 26. Blenheim is in for a fine day with a slightly cooler 22 degrees. In Canterbury, a cloudy day and 18 degrees for Kaikoura. Christchurch and Ashburton can both expect highs of 18 degrees and cloud as well. Looking at the southern centres now, the Catlins, Balclutha, Lumsden and Gore are due for 16 degrees with light southwesterlies and fine weather. Over to central Otago, Wanaka and Queenstown can expect light winds, fine weather and highs of 19. Alexandra, you're the pick of the bunch at 20, while it's due to be 16 for Te Anau. Looking at the northern towns, Timaru and Oamaru are in for light southwesterlies, some clouds and 15 degrees. Further inland, Marama and Twizel are due to have light winds, clear skies and 19 degrees. And in Dunedin, some cloud with light winds tonight with an overnight low of 11. Mostly cloudy tomorrow with scattered light showers at times, a low of 5 and a high of 16 degrees. Sunny and milder on Wednesday with northeast winds developing and a high of 19. And in Invercargill, becoming fine tonight and an overnight low of 7. Mostly fine and sunny tomorrow with light southwest winds, cool temperatures and a high of 16. Fine on Wednesday with sunny periods, some cloud and moderate westerly winds, a predicted top temperature of 18. And that wraps up our news for today. For the latest news from the southern region, head online to odt.co.nz and channel 39.co.nz or follow us on Facebook and YouTube. Thanks for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your Monday evening. Good night.
This bulletin proudly brought to you in association with Alex Campbell's Menswear.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.